Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 20, How to Draw Arms, part 1. Sorry, I've been away for a little while. I kind of fell off the wagon, but I'm going to get back up on it and keep going with my How to Draw series. So, this is how to draw arms. In my opinion, at least for me, arms are one of the most difficult parts of the body to draw. And here I'm going to try to break down my approach. So basically, what I'm writing here is the arms are basically cylinders, but we got to understand them in a more simplified way first. It's just a little easier to understand it when you don't try to put all the form on top of it. So as we've done in my previous videos, in my previous episodes, I'm just going to start with some really basic shapes here. So I drew the shoulder just as a circle, just to show you. Then I drew the upper arm. There's the elbow, lower arm, and then the wrist, and now the hand. But what I'm actually doing here in just a second is I'm labeling, the different sections. And we're going to label the different sections of the arm, and just so that you know the names of them. You don't really need to know, you don't really need to know the names to draw them, but we'll get into that here in just a second. And apologize if my commentary is not amazing. I haven't made a video in a while, so I'm trying to get back into it. So, looks like okay, yeah. Here, see, I'm recording this audio after I film these. So here, what I'm doing is I'm labeling the names of these bones, just so that you have an idea. And then actually, if you look here on the lower arm actually has 2 bones in it, not one. And I've actually, next to me, I've got like a medical book. These anatomy and medical books are great for learning. And we're all learning, and we're all in different stages of our process, so of our learning journey. So I'm getting some information from medical books that I have, because if I'm going to teach it, I want it to be right, obviously. So yep, getting some information, and we're going to keep going here in just a second. I can't remember what I was doing while nothing was happening. I couldn't remember. I made this video a while ago. Like I said, I'm behind on my videos, but I probably was looking through some book or something for references. So here I labeled the different bones, and I wanted to make sure I was labeling each bone correctly. The radius and the ulna are the bones in the forearm. There's 2, and here what I'm drawing is, I believe what I'm going to be drawing is how they, what happens when you twist the arm, I believe. We'll see here in a second. Yep, yeah, that's what I did here. So what I'm doing is crossing over the bones to show you that when you twist the arm, the bones actually cross over one another, which is really kind of unique, I think. But that's what happens. You don't know that it's happening. You can't feel it when you twist your arm, but that's what's happening. So I wanted to draw that here to show you. Yeah, that's what I wrote here. The radius and ulna cross over each other when the arm is twisted. Okay, so next what I'm drawing is I'm trying to show you the proportions of the arm. The upper arm is a little bit shorter than the lower. It doesn't seem like it is, but it's just a little bit shorter on most people. I mean, in general, it's almost the same length in general. So, or about the same length. I mean, if you're thinking about it from the shoulder all the way down, you know, it might actually be exactly the same length, but it all depends. Everyone is different, and so if you're using reference to draw, you got to make sure you're looking at the reference and really paying attention to the proportions of the person that you're drawing. So now what we're going to do is, here what I'm doing is I'm drawing some form over the top of the lines that I drew, just a stick figure to get it started, and then I'm just drawing a quick form over it. Again, like as in my other videos, this way of drawing isn't all that exciting, but this is a really good way to learn how to draw the parts of the body. Again, it's like I said, it's not that exciting. It's kind of boring. It doesn't look all that thrilling, right? But this is how I learn, and this is how I've learned how to draw. I just draw really, really simple so that I can understand it and then go from there. So that's what I'm doing here, like all my other stuff. So that example's not amazing, but I think I end up fixing it a little bit. And then here I'm just drawing the upper arm and then the lower arm. And that's really all you need, as in this is just an example of what these look like. That's all it is. They're two cylinder shapes, really. That's all they are. Oh, and here I'm fixing that little sketch I just did. So hopefully you guys can learn just from watching me draw these. This is the reason why I'm doing these drawings in such an easy to start out. Like the drawings are kind of boring. That's why I'm doing it this way, so that even if I'm not saying something, you can pick it up, because everybody can draw a stick figure. That's why I typically draw with stick figures and not forms right away. Okay, so this next piece here that I'm drawing is I'm drawing something that I actually learned from David Finch, and he's a really, really famous comic book artist. He's from Canada. But this is something I learned from him with the forearm. Basically, he said this is almost exactly what I remember him saying. The forearm is like basically a rectangular box with two bumps on it. One bump on one side and one bump on the other side. And if you draw your forearms like that, they'll look really, really convincing. And I've done that ever since I learned that, and they always look really good. That's all it is. It's a box with two little wedges, one wedge on one side and one wedge on the other. And that's all it is. It's like these, this triangular shape almost. And now here what I'm doing is I'm drawing just to show you how the lower arm gets thicker towards the elbow. So really, I'm drawing very, very simple shapes, but using these simple shapes, they look like body parts. So that's the whole point of this series, again. And forgive me, like I said, I haven't made a video in quite a while, so I'm having to refresh myself on, things that I'm, teaching you guys. So just because I'm teaching you doesn't mean I'm not learning. I'm constantly drawing and constantly practicing and constantly trying to improve my skills and my craft. Okay, so right there, like I said, I just showed you how the lower arm gets thicker towards the bottom. And, depending on the positioning, the bicep might be balled up or extended, like contracted or not. So here what I'm doing is just showing you in a different form what the elbow is. The elbow is basically a hinge, and it can only move in two directions. It just moves forward and back. Like, well, I guess you could also say maybe up and down. It only moves two ways. So here what I'm just doing is just drawing a little hinge to show you the idea. I think that's the part about drawing the human form that's the hardest for me is the body parts can be in so many different positions, which is exactly why I explain this. The arms are one of the most difficult parts to draw because they can move really in a bunch of different ways. Like, I would say next to hands, arms are really difficult to place correctly. So here's just an example of a hinge. I don't know. I didn't really have to draw that, but that's just another visual example of what the arm does. So here, so I'm writing the elbow can only move to a straightened position. It can only move straight, and it can't move beyond 100, like I don't know the angle, but it can't move beyond a straightened position. If it goes beyond that, then it's a broken arm. So you got to know the limits of the range of motion in each body part too. And that's also hard to learn and memorize, to know the range of motion in each part of the body. Okay, so now we're on the last section here. The arms, I'm writing here, the arms connect into the collarbone, and the arms move, this is obvious, but the arms move independently of one another. Their movement doesn't really start at the shoulder. It's, the collarbone is part of it. The collarbone moves that whole section, and then you can rotate your arm off that shoulder joint or the deltoid joint, but the movement doesn't really start at the shoulders. So you have to think about the direction that the collarbone is placed as well when you're moving the arm. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is draw a little bit more of a finished presentation of an arm that's moved up, and a wrist that's kind of moved, and what happens to the pecs when the arm is moved. This is really important for your figure drawing. You got to know what happens to the pectoral muscles when you move your arms around. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just drawing the stick figure like I usually do to start out, and then we'll make it a little bit more fleshed out in the second here. What I think I'm going to try to do in some future videos is, or in videos going forward, is make some nicer examples towards the end. I try to do that with each video, but these videos they take a while to make, and I want them to be simple for you guys to follow. That's why I don't spend a lot of time. I don't spend as much time doing a finished drawing, because I want these to be easy for you to follow. I want you to be able to draw these very easily and not get stressed out over it. That's why I make these drawings really simple, and I don't really finish them. Even though I could put more time into them and make a more finished piece for you, but I normally don't. Like I said, I want them to be simpler. But here what I'm doing is I'm showing you the bone structure, and then I'm going to add the form on top of that. This guy's like really skinny here. The chest that I'm drawing, but I think what I'm doing here is I'm just making this up. So I'm not really looking at anything, but yeah, I just figured I would draw the entire arm. And again, this is an example of what happens when you move your arm up. The pectoral muscle moves with it, and you have to draw that pec muscle correctly. Otherwise, that moved arm isn't going to look right. So let's see, what do I say here? I'm writing here, movement of the arm also changes the shape of the pectoral muscles. I've just said that a bunch of times now. Sorry for repeating myself. And then here what I'm writing is, this is why I consider arms to be one of the most difficult parts to draw. Because arms can be placed in so many different positions. They're like the hands in a way. The arms are like hands. You can put the arm in so many different positions because the arm moves at the collarbone and the shoulder, and you can move it forward, back, up, down, sideways. And that's why it's hard to draw them, because they can be in so many different positions. So I'm going to finish this guy up here, and then you'll have a nice example of what it looks like. Okay, so I'm just lightening it down. I'm going to make it a little nicer. This is how I typically create my drawings. Like I'll do different passes. Like I'll do a stick figure, then I'll do like a more detailed, like a form layer, and then I'll erase all of that and then redo the line work on top of it all so that it looks nicer. And that's how I get the nice line work. I don't just go in with the nice line work right away. I spend time to build the figure, and then see right there how I did the 2 bumps on that forearm, and now it looks like a forearm. And that's all I had to do. Two little triangles, and it looks like an arm. It's pretty easy to draw the forearm. Like I said, the hard part about arms is getting them in different positions. And we're going to get into different positions in the next episode. So next week, we'll get into more. But, yep, here's an example of I'm just cleaning up these this line work. And this is what it takes to make a nicer sketch or a nicer drawing. Just keep going over it till it looks the way you want it. And make sure you remember to draw lightly, so that you can erase and redo your line work if you're trying to make it nicer. I tend to be kind of a perfectionist, so I just kind of go over it until I like it. So that's the other thing about anatomy, is you have to know where everything goes. Once you know where everything goes, you don't really need to look at anything. And I may have already said that in a previous video, but it's true. It's all about knowing where to put everything. And once you know that, you don't even have to look. You might have to look for like a little bit more complicated pose or something, but for the most part, if you know where the parts go, you don't even need to look at anything. Takes a while to learn that, though. That's why I'm showing you all this. And, you know, learning how to draw takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of time. There's definitely a learning curve. It's not going to happen overnight. You just got to keep going. So we're going to get into more arm poses and positions in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.